You're listening to 10 Points, a podcast with your hosts, Ash and Nicholas, where all the talk is Canadian Highlander, our favorite format from the best trading card game ever, Magic the Gathering.
Hey everybody, it's me, Ash.
And me, Nicholas.
Today we're going to be talking about Creature Combo. Now, we've already done a whole episode about Kikipod, and we'll touch on it a bit, but we really wanted to talk about the other Creature Combo decks today.
Yeah, but first, we're going to get to our best card from. And today's best card from is from the set Urza's Saga. Ash, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, so this set is pretty loaded with playable cards. Me and Nicholas were talking about, we had like 15, 20, 25 honorable mentions. I think it's on the lower end of that, but it's a high amount of playable cards compared to most sets. But my card, as the best card from, is Tolarian Academy. If you know me, you know I like to play either control or combo, and most of that combo is artifact-based, and Tolarian Academy is a huge part of why any of those decks work. But, it's pointed for a reason.
Yeah. I actually, awkwardly, also picked Tolarian Academy. I really wanted to pick Gaia's Cradle, because everybody knows that I am a creature combo fanatic.
Degenerate.
Foreshadowing. But, no, Tolarian Academy is just so insane in the decks that play it. It's not even comparable. Cradle's good, but Academy is incredible. And it quite literally enables entire archetypes that probably would not be possible, or at least as viable, without it.
Yeah, I've got a couple honorable mentions, like I said, that I brought my list down just to 3 to share with you today. First one is Gaia's Cradle. That was in my top 5 choices for sure. But I think my reasoning that Tolarian Academy is better is the same reason that Tolarian Academy is pointed and Cradle isn't, which is simply creatures are a lot easier to interact with than artifacts and enchantments. Well, artifacts specifically. So I think that's part of the reason. It's a little more versatile than Gaia's Cradle on average. But my other 2 honorable mentions are one card that combos with Tolarian Academy, which is Time Spiral. It's a wheel that lets you untap your Tolarian Academy, and usually that's good.
It's a synergy, not a combo.
So you're right.
Just throwing that out there.
Okay, alright. Okay, I didn't know we were the grammar police here. Okay, granted, I'm usually the grammar... Okay, it doesn't matter. My last honorable mention might not be what people expected, but it is Duress. Card is obviously great. It has seen play in the format for literally ever, and I don't see signs of that stopping. It's super efficient, does good at what it needs to do.
Yeah, I think that was actually my number 2.
Also, best art.
I don't actually know what the...
Best non-promo art?
Yeah, it's good art.
I'm pretty sure it's Urza.
Reign of Filth has also recently...
Wait, it might be Gix.
What?
Sorry, go ahead. The art on Duress.
Oh, Reign of Filth has recently been an MVP for me, but we will talk about that more later.
Yeah, we will. Okay, so, Nick, you want to talk to me a little bit about why you would play Creature Combo over other decks?
Yeah.
As the broad archetype of Creature Combo, that is.
Yeah, obviously, Creature Combo decks are very different from each other, from deck to deck, but
some of them are more similar than others, to be fair.
Yes, of course. As with any other combo deck, or combo archetype, Creature Combo may be the broadest, but they all have a few things in common. One of those things in common is that they all have pretty versatile gameplay. There's a lot of really good creatures that have different kind of taxing effects or like ETB effects like Endurance and Opposition Agent that you often just get to include in these decks along with Collector Oof and stuff, and you just have a bunch of creature tutors to find them. So you often have the versatility of being able to kind of tutor up what beats any matchup, as well as, of course, the combo part of the deck, which is what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and sometimes what beats the matchup is that first little number on the bottom right of the card.
Yeah. Sometimes you just attack them to death.
Sometimes you're trying to set up a combo and you just have like 11 power in play.
Yeah, that's one of like the best things about creature combo is that you can shift game plans really easily and really quickly. If you feel like they're able to interact with your combo too much, you can just switch to a mid-range plan on a dime. And if you've been like kind of going for the mid-range plan for the whole game, you can oftentimes just surprise them out of nowhere and kill them. So it's one of those things where when you're playing against creature combo, you have to be playing to beat both game plans, not one or the other.
Yeah, I was actually playing a game yesterday on a creature combo deck, and I was a little confused because like I knew my opponent had removal from my pod, so I just wasn't planning to win by pod, and I was just like setting up some stuff, and then he besaged my survival of the fittest instead, and then he died on the next turn because I just pod comboed him. I was like gonna play this mid range plan, and then he just died.
To be fair, there's no good options in that situation, but yeah, pod is definitely the right choice there.
Yeah, it's not good, that's for sure.
The next best reason to play creature combo is if you just really enjoy shuffling your deck, because you'll be doing
you get to play
a lot. You
get to play your fetch lands, you get to play survival of the fittest, you get to play creature tutors, pod. Yeah. It's actually it's a really great like forearm exercise. So if you have no better way to exercise your forearms, that's a good one.
Yeah. You're on oftentimes on at least 3, but oftentimes even more colors, 4 or 5. So you're playing all the fetch lands, and you're just constantly tutoring for creatures, like constantly. You have so many creature tutors.
It is a true science fact. Now, obviously, that was a little tongue-in-cheek reason to play the archetype.
Yeah.
But another really legitimate reason to play the archetype, and this kind of falls into the versatile gameplay aspect, but you get to play more than most other decks get to play initiative cards, because A, you're so good at finding them, and B, you're so good at abusing them. And we're going to get a little more into that idea a bit later, but I just think creature combo decks, more than most other decks, can really, really abuse the initiative mechanic.
Yeah, creature combo decks are really good at either reanimating creatures over and over again or blinking creatures over and over again. So when you play an initiative card, it just propels you forward even more than it would in most decks. As well as when you play it, you get to shuffle your deck after you search for your basic, which is always fun.
That's true. So if you're cool with me doing it, I kind of just want to list off the types of creature combo, and then we'll go back through and just like touch on them, and if we need to expand on them, we can.
Yeah, and there's probably some more corner cases that we missed, and honestly, we're kind of including some corner cases that we kind of want to talk about. But yeah, you can just go through and list them all if you want, and then we can go back and kind of talk more about them if we need to.
Okay, so these are in no particular order. They were just the order that I remembered them. We have Kiki Pod, which we've already talked pretty in depth about. Sultai Walk Pod, which Nicholas has talked about a little bit. Seeker Walk, which is the Spellseeker Time Walk deck. 4-color Recurring Walks, Nicholas's new baby. Bant ETB, Abzan Recurring Nightmare. Goblins, Elves, Cradlehoof, Pattern Rector, and a new friend of mine I've been working on, which we'll get into, called, I call it 4-color Furiously Nightmare Sawing. But it's like a recurring nightmare. It's like a 4-color recurring nightmare deck.
Yeah, which that deck is less all in on the combo. But I have also been building a very similar deck that I call 5-color I'm the Monarch, and now I will take the initiative, which is pretty much the same deck. We actually thought of this deck at the same time. And
independently.
Yeah, independently. And we were like talking about this new deck that we're bringing. We're like, oh, we're just building the same deck, except originally Ash's was 3-color and mine was originally 5-color. And now he's gone up to 4 colors and I'm thinking about dropping down to 4 colors. So,
well, I mean, we've already started talking about it. How about I talk about where my version of the deck came from?
Sure.
So, I call it my current name. It's a working title right now, but it's 4-color Furiously Nightmare Sawing. And all the cards in the name there are Fury, Recurring Nightmare, and Saw in Half. The deck originated as just the logical extension of Abzan Recurring Nightmare, which the deck I have played in the past. But since Unfinity came out and the card Saw in Half, I really wanted to Saw in Half the Siege Rhino. But I noticed by the time I got around to building it, I had noticed a lot of chatter on the 10 Points Discord, which is in the description, that people were really talking about how incredible the initiative mechanic was in Highlander, and frankly, I didn't really believe them at the time, so I figured, well, let's give it a shot. So I built a Abzan Recurring Nightmare deck with the intention on abusing the initiative creatures as well as playing Saw in Half, which is a good way to abuse initiative creatures, might I add. If you don't know what Saw in Half is, it's a 3-mana instant that lets you destroy a creature, and you make 2 smaller copies of it, so you get to double up on ETB effects. Well, triple up on ETB effects. And sometimes those creatures come back later, so it's really good, is the point. But after playing it a little bit, at least in our metagame, I found out that I really wanted to be playing red for Fury and a couple other cards. So I went up to 4-color, and I've played it for 3 weeks now, twice a week, and I've played it at 3 events now, out of across 2 weeks, and I've gone 2-1, 3-0, 3-0. In the 4-color version. Actually, I think I played 4 times. The deck has done very well. I've really enjoyed it, and it's a deck that gets to utilize the initiative. It doesn't utilize it as much as Nicholas's deck, as he said, and a couple other decks I've seen utilize it a little bit more. But you get to really abuse the incarnations. There's a bit of a modern scam element to it, because you play a couple cards like Ephemerate and Feign Death to go along with your Fury and Grief and Solitude, and you can do some pretty solid stuff with it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the combo part of your deck? You talked about the creature part, but
yeah.
You did not talk about the combo.
So when it was an Abzan, I actually didn't have any combo lines with it. It was simply a grindy creature deck. But this version, when I added red to it, I added a Felidar Guardian and a Kiki-Jiki, so the pod line works. So I can go from a 3-drop into lethal if I have enough mana and or life. And then there is also... Well, the initial build did have a Restoration Angel. That is no longer... I'm sorry. It does have a Restoration Angel, but that's not the point. It did have a Splinter Twin, but I ended up cutting the Splinter Twin. It just didn't seem necessary.
Yeah, Splinter Twin also doesn't work with Felidar Guardian or Resto Angel, and if you're not in blue, you don't get the ones that really work with it super well. Other than like you get Zealous Conscripts, but that's that was the one that it had. Yeah.
I've removed Zealous Conscripts as well. So I will say, I did at one point slap a Splinter Twin on a Siege Rhino.
I mean, yeah. See, sometimes you just have a fair Splinter Twin, and it is just good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I'll very briefly talk about my list. I built mine off of inspiration of watching, as many people know, Ben Wheeler. He played Naya Initiative on YouTube, and I was like, all right, yeah, that's like cool and all, but I want to see like what I want to. Usually when I build a deck, I try to take it to the extreme of what the deck can be and then tone it down. So I built this deck with fully intending for it to be bad. I built 5-color. I did not succeed, unfortunately. I built 5-color, and I just put like almost all of the initiative cards and a pretty decent number of the monarch cards. And the deck has felt amazing. I played it. I haven't been able to make it to many events. I played it. But I played it a lot over webcam games, and I'm pretty sure that I until yesterday had not dropped a match. Yesterday I did actually make it to an event, and I went 1-2. But that was largely due to my deck kind of slapping me in the face repeatedly. I had a lot of mulligans, like so many mulligans. I believe I mulled to 4 twice, 5 twice. I actually don't think I ever kept a 7. I just kept drawing either 6 landers or 0 landers. So yesterday did not go super well, but apart from that, the deck has felt incredible. But yeah, we should talk about some of the more established creature combo decks. Oh, my deck was also playing a pod for Kiki package, which is what makes it a creature combo deck. But like we said, the 2 decks that we just talked about are less creature combo decks, more just heavy creature value decks that are playing a combo.
Yeah, when I was talking to Robert the other day, talking about these show notes, I was talking about how Goblins it's so weird how it's not only a creature combo deck, but like it kills with the combo a lot. Like it's not just like every now and then it happens. It's like a pretty core part of the build now. And yeah, I kind of brought up this idea of the scale of creature combo decks. Is like the 2 extremes in the scale are a combo deck that is comprised of creatures, or a creature deck that can combo. And I think both of our decks are much more on the creature deck that can combo. Whereas if you look at if you look at Kiki Pod, people would imagine that is a combo deck comprised of creatures. Seeker Walk is a combo deck comprised of creatures, much more than it is a creature deck that can combo. Don't get me wrong, they are creature decks that can combo. That's the whole point of this entire archetype. But, you know, like Hoof is like, they're gonna combo kill you, and that's how it's gonna end.
I don't know if I would call Hoof a combo, more just a lot of mana.
I mean, I whenever I get hoofed, it feels like I got comboed.
That's fair. They kind of like just do a bunch of stuff and then play a hoof, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of creatures that are really big, and then you die.
I mean, I feel like I don't
know. But yeah,
what's our definition of combo?
I mean, I feel like hoof doesn't fall into any definition of combo. But
wait, hoof the deck or hoof the card?
Well, the card. Does hoof have any like infinite combos, or at least like?
Yes, because every combo has to be infinite.
No. Well, I don't know. What is your definition of combo?
It's like some combination of cards or like play pattern that a deck is tailored to that wins the game uninterrupted. Like, not just like, okay, that definition is literally just playing Magic.
Yeah, my definition of combo is a combination of cards that near instantly win the game if uninterrupted.
Okay,
so
I think hoof.
Accumulated...
I think hoof and creatures falls into that category.
Sure, I'll give you that. That falls into my definition. 3 creatures and hoof kills into my definition.
Yeah, like I think people just don't think of it because it's like, oh, they go wide. It's not a combo deck, but like, it really is.
I can see that. Yeah. But we should talk about some of the more dedicated creature combo decks.
Let's talk about Walkbot. Unless you had a preference on something else.
I was just going to start at the top of the list. I mean, we don't really need to talk about Kiki Pod much because we've talked a lot about it. But for someone that hasn't heard our previous episodes, Kiki Pod is basically a 4-color creature deck that...
No black.
That tries to assemble Kiki Jiki plus something that untaps it to go infinite. And it plays Birthing Pod to accomplish that, as well as things like Vivian and Survival of the Fittest to also accomplish that. And sometimes it's playing Time Walk, sometimes not.
It is notable that out of all of, I mean, we just listed like 4 different decks that play Kiki Jiki and Birthing Pod. The deck that is called Kiki Pod, that is the most all in on Kiki deck that there is.
Yeah, so the difference lies, so the decks that we were just talking about, they're only playing Kiki Jiki with the intention of, if they acquire Birthing Pod, you can pod a 3-drop into Felidar Guardian, pod the which blinks the pod the Felidar Guardian into Karmic Guide, which brings back the Felidar Guardian to blink the pod, and then pod the Felidar Guardian to get Kiki Jiki to copy Karmic Guide to bring Felidar Guardian back and go infinite. So that is where it's less of the deck is dedicated to doing this thing, but it's more, if you have pod, now you have a line to win the game. Kiki Pod is playing a lot more ways to do it, even without Birthing Pod. So you're playing like Pestermite, you're playing Deceiver Exarch,
Corridor Monitor.
Yeah, Corridor Monitor.
You're playing a million tutors to get pod.
Yeah. Well, you're playing a few tutors to get pod. You're playing
like 3 or 4 tutors to get pod.
Depending on the list, sure. But
you're playing Tezzeret the Seeker as a 5-mana pod.
Yeah, usually I'm on Tezzeret and Enlightened Tutor, and that's where it ends.
Okay, I think are you telling me I'm not supposed to play Fabricate?
Yeah, definitely not Fabricate. That's way too much mana. Sometimes Bring to Light is reasonable.
Especially because you have a lot of creatures that make black, so you can cast it for 5 if you need to. For the Kiki Jiki.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Can that get a creature?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so it's basically a lot more all in on that game plan. Sultai Walk Pod is not much of a thing anymore. There's just not much of a reason to be in Sultai if you're trying to do that, because one of the main reasons to try to take infinite turns is playing Spellseeker, and then if you're playing Spellseeker, then Sultai doesn't work because you can't get Ephemerate. But Sultai Walk Pod is still fun to play, and I'll bust it out every once in a while.
So if it's not, like, what is the deck then?
Yeah, so Sultai Walk Pod, it's actually a pretty old deck. Basically, it's a deck that you would basically use all those like value creatures. You're playing things like Recurring Nightmare, but you were also just playing some ways to take infinite turns. And your point spread was back when Time Walk was 6. You had Time Walk, you had Pod, and you had Survival, which was your 10 points. But you also could just play Spellseeker, because Spellseeker was 0 points, but Ephemerate didn't exist. So there wasn't just an infinite combo that you could just automatically assemble with playing a Spellseeker and then going infinite. But you could do things like play Spellseeker, get Time Walk, cast Time Walk. Like assuming you have like a Survival, you can like get Spellseeker, cast Time Walk, and then like go get Eternal Witness, get the Time Walk back, and then take another turn. And like you could basically, like in a really roundabout way, assemble infinite. You were playing like Marin of Clan Neltoth, to like get your like if you could sacrifice your Eternal Witness every turn and then get it back so that you could take infinite turns that way, and just different lines that were a lot more convoluted. But it was also just playing a super duper like fair creature toolbox plan, where you're just playing all of the really good Sultai creature toolbox cards that kill your opponent, and you're playing things like Recurring Nightmare and stuff like that. That deck doesn't really exist anymore.
So that deck, its primary combo was using literally infinite turn spells, aside from Time Walk. I mean, in addition to Time Walk.
Yeah. You were also playing a few of the other infinite turn, like the other extra turn spells. Time Walk is the best one because it's much easier to go infinite when you only have to spend 2 mana to take an extra turn as opposed to 5.
Seems about right.
Yeah. But that deck has turned into another deck, which we can talk about in a little bit. But Ash, do you want to talk about the Seeker Walk deck and what that is trying to do?
Yeah, I can touch on it. Nicholas kind of mentioned this already, but nowadays we have Ephemerate because of Modern Horizons. And basically, what Ephemerate adds to the Seeker Walk deck is, or rather what it changes from it, is the ability for Spellseeker to win the game by itself effectively if not interacted with. Because what you can do is you can play Spellseeker and go get Ephemerate with the Spellseeker. Then you will cast Ephemerate targeting Spellseeker to blink it. Go get a Eladamri's Call or a Worldly Tutor if you have to and have a way to...
No.
What?
That is incorrect.
You don't go and get Eladamri's Call?
No. Eladamri's Call is the 3-mana one.
No, it's not.
What?
Eladamri's Call is is a green and a white mana.
Oh, well, no. Okay, no, you're right, but that's still not... Okay, do you mind if I just run through this real quick?
This is ridiculous.
Okay, so...
Go for it.
Ash has never actually played this deck, to be fair. No, so what you do is you play Spellseeker, you get Ephemerate, you Ephemerate the Spellseeker, and then...
I know what you do.
You go get Time Walk. And
you take an extra turn and get to rebound.
Yeah, so you cast the Time Walk, and then on your next turn, it rebounds, and you go get Neoform. And you Neoform away your Spellseeker to either get Archaeomancer or get whatever...
Timeless Witness.
Yeah, Timeless Witness. And then the Timeless Witness returns Ephemerate, and then you Ephemerate the Timeless Witness to get back Time Walk, take another turn, and then on your next upkeep, you Ephemerate it again to get back the Ephemerate, and then you Ephemerate it, and then you can go infinite that way.
Okay, listen, I've never played the deck, and I was close. If you let me think about it, I was going to get there.
Yeah, it could have worked in a very convoluted way, but the streamlined and most common path is Ephemerate, and then Time Walk, and then Neoform, and then go infinite from there.
Yeah, so the thing about the Seeker Walk deck is it's kind of like Flash Hulk, where you can kind of build whatever shell around it you want. You can just fill the deck with tutors and to find Spellseeker and then go like that. I've seen it once in a pretty controlling shell. I didn't play against it, but I saw the list anyways. And so you can kind of put it wherever you do whatever you want. But I think the most common thing is for it to just be in a creature shell. So all your tutors and stuff have additional value outside of comboing.
Yeah, it's usually just in like a creature toolbox shell, and it's usually, I don't know if you said this, it's 4-color, no red.
I didn't. I only mentioned Bant colors.
Yeah, you're oftentimes on black, just because you don't have to be on black for the combo, but you get things like Grist and Opposition Agent and Leovold, and just some other pretty Grief, just good black creatures that you can afford to be playing, as well as you get things like Diabolic Intent, Unearth, Reanimate. So you just get kind of some redundancy, kind of just some good stuff that you can afford to be playing, because you have the slots for it. And it's usually just kind of a creature toolbox deck that's just playing a lot of creature tutors, and sometimes you just go infinite.
Yep. I would say that deck is probably one of the more prohibitive on this whole list because it requires literal Time Walk. You can't play a more expensive one as a replacement.
Yeah, that is correct. You can't swap it out for anything. But yeah, no, the deck is very good. This deck is the main reason that Spellseeker recently went up to 3, because it was just
Nicholas's sadness.
It was quite tragic.
Nick, you talked about it a lot recently, so maybe you can do an elevator pitch version of 4-color recurring walks. Yeah,
4-color recurring walks is the...
Or you can talk about it more if you want, whatever you want to do.
It's very similar to Seeker Walk. I actually created this deck before I really knew much about Seeker Walk. But it's basically the next version of Sultai Walk Pod. We said the deck doesn't exist anymore because it can't play Ephemerate, so I built a deck that can play Ephemerate. It's Sultai Walk Pod, but it's also playing white, and it basically does the same thing, except sometimes it just Spellseekers for the kill, But there's also just a bunch of other convoluted lines to get there. You can like it's also no red. You can like Soul Herder, Marin, just different things like that to take infinite turns, as well as just having a really, really solid creature toolbox deck.
So, in my opinion, if you don't mind me interrupting briefly,
yeah,
I think that 4-color Recurring Walks and 4-color Furiously Nightmare Sawing are probably the two most similar decks in this list, because they are both just like all across the color pie, very creaturey on the board kind of decks that have a combo option.
Yeah, 4-color Recurring Walks is maybe a little bit more all in. That being said, I actually have been talking, and actually I'm going to build it this week. I want to rebuild the deck and try it with a point spread of Time Walk, Pod, Survival. And while I don't think that's probably the optimal build of the deck, because of the initiative cards, I've been thinking about the viability of kind of shifting into more of a just value game plan that still has the opportunity to combo, but not as consistently, because you can't just tutor for Spellseeker and go infinite. But Time Walk lends itself to initiative cards very well. You're already on like ways to reanimate creatures. You're already on Survival of the Fittest, Pod, Eternal Witness, Recurring Nightmare. So I've been thinking about not going super all in on initiative, but playing the good initiative cards, playing the good other just value creature cards, and kind of going for a value game plan that has lines to take infinite turns.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll move on to Bant ETB. This one is another one of those decks that is a creature deck that can combo.
And sometimes they can't even do that.
Yeah, a lot of times people build it without a combo, and in which case, go you. But it's a creature deck. I mean, you guys have heard us talk about it. I think I played it on a Paperlander. Is that right?
Yeah, you actually played it on the first Paperlander.
Well, I think it was the second one, because the first one is like, I don't know. I feel like I played Blue-White at the first one.
All right, you keep talking. I'm going to find out.
Okay, well, the first one is, you can't even see the darn thing. It looks awful. So, no, I don't remember. Okay, it doesn't matter. For Bant ETB, what you're often doing is playing Bant, which is green, white, blue, obviously. Creatures that do stuff when they enter play, and sometimes one when they leave play. And they're just bodies in the ground that you can beat your opponent with, and you play a lot of effects to cause them to leave play and re-enter play, so you get their abilities once again. Stuff like Thragtusk, that when it leaves play, you get a token, and when it comes into play, you gain 5 life. Stuff like Cloudblazer, where it draws 2 cards and enter the battlefield. Stuff like the initiative creatures. And the combo that sometimes this deck plays is, I think some do infinite turns with a Soul Herder and an Eternal Witness, plus a Time Walk. And sometimes people can make infinite mana with a Deadeye Navigator and a Peregrine Drake, and then they can flicker something infinitely, which sometimes wins the game. Sometimes you can gain infinite life with Thragtusk and make infinite tokens, or do something like that.
All right.
But yeah,
I was
deck's fun.
Not paying attention to any of that, so Ash, I hope you were telling true things. But
I talked about the 2 different combos you can play in Bant ETB.
Yeah, one of them is much better than the other.
Well, one of them wins immediately. The other one depends what you have in play.
Yeah, one of them. The other one also. The Time Walk combo is the best combo to be playing in Bant ETB. I don't know if you're noticing a theme with a lot of creature combo decks. It's usually either Kiki Jiki or Time Walk.
Sometimes both.
Sometimes both.
Sometimes what you do is you Kiki Jiki Eternal Witness Time Walk.
But there is no better feeling than being able to assemble the Deadeye Navigator combo and then just like infinitely blinking like
Thragtusk?
Yeah, I mean Thragtusk like does too good of a job at winning. Like a Charming Prince or something to gain infinite life and also scry your entire deck and then you're like, I haven't technically won, but I mean, try to deal with this. So it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. Ash, you were correct though. You played Blue White in the first Paperlander and Banty to be in the second. So I guess get wrecked me.
Okay, I was gonna be toxic, and then you like took like.
I knew what was coming. I just had to get ahead of it.
Well, now I feel like a jerk if I'm toxic because you took responsibility for your actions.
It's like if someone's like holding you at gunpoint and says, I'm gonna kill you unless you give me your wallet, then you just like grab your own gun and turn it on yourself, and you're like, haha, beat this, and they just don't know what to do.
That reminds me of that one Julian Smith video. The milk.
Oh, wow, we're getting way off topic. Julian Smith is a throwback. If you haven't watched him,
dude,
do it.
Go
It's
watch
like
Julian Smith on YouTube.
the
old
YouTube.
videos.
Yeah, the old videos. Does he make
This
videos
is like
still?
Oh, yeah, it's way different though. I think he like does a podcast about like generational trauma or something.
Oh, sure. No, his old YouTube videos.
He did
are
old
great.
sketch. Okay, you know what? This is not important.
Not sponsored, but we could be. Actually, I don't
But
know
we
if that's
could
how that
be.
works. All right.
Oh my goodness.
So
So Absent Recurring Nightmare,
yeah, that.
please.
Yeah, Absian Recurring Nightmare. I don't think it really thrives in environments in which it's playing combos or like actual infinite combos. But it's like an Absian creature toolbox deck that's playing like Recurring Nightmare, Pod, Survival, fast mana, good creatures, and just does broken value-y things that don't actually infinite combo. Ash has shoehorned in Kiki
Whoa, hold
Jiki.
hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Don't worry.
Okay.
Talk about the real combos that the deck plays.
I mean, I don't really think that you want to be playing any actual combos in Absian Nightmare.
Sure you do. You do the Devoted Druid Vizier Remedies Ballista stuff.
I feel like it's just better to be on Pattern Rector at that point, but sure.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
You
You're correct. But the other thing is you do infinite Kiki Jiki or Red Cap.
You mean
Because
Kitchen Finks or Red Cap?
yeah, sorry, Kitchen Finks.
I guess you could also do like Safi, Karmic Guide Reveler type things.
Yeah, you often play those cards.
So yeah, I guess that there are some combos, but for the most part, Absian Nightmare really just thrives at making your nightmares come true as you realize that this Siege Rhino is going to continue to be reanimated and there's nothing you can do about it.
So the logical extension of this deck, the only logical thing to do,
Nope.
and this is something I did, 2.5 years ago?
Probably. This
this point-
is one of the only creature combo decks that we're going to talk about that Ash has played and I haven't.
You haven't played 4-color Furiously Nightmare Sawing.
I don't count that. I count that as a deck within a broader archetype, which is creature initiative combo.
Okay, you know what? Forget that. Okay, listen. I call the deck Greedy Jiki Abzan. And all that you do is you play the pod line that goes from 3 to kill them, which we talked about at an earlier timestamp. And you just put the Kiki Jiki and the rest of that combo in the deck without putting red lands in the deck. So, that's why it's greedy, because you can't actually cast it. If you draw Kiki Jiki, you better hope you draw Survival of the Fittest to discard it. Now, the only thing that... Okay, you could cast it if you had all 3 of your mana dorks that made all colors of mana. So Bird's Paradise, Deathbite Shaman, and Sylvan Caryatid. And that was it. So you had to pot into it, pretty much. Would not recommend. Was not good. You know what's better is 4-color Furiously Nightmare Sawing.
I mean,
Are you
yes.
gonna bash me or what? Come on.
Better to be playing 4-color initiative creature combo. That being said,
I cut an initiative card, actually.
I actually also cut an initiative card, and then regretted it. Not because I think it
did
was
not regret
correct to, not because I didn't. I regretted it not because I didn't think that it was correct to cut it, but I regretted it because I felt like I betrayed the true nature of the deck, which was just to shoehorn all of the initiative cards into a deck.
I mean, you said it yourself. You go to ham and then dial it back.
Yeah, and that's
exactly what you did.
I'm currently on blue, which is what Ash is not on. And blue gets you a few things. It gets you Soul Herder, which is really good. It gets you, I think it's Feywild Caretaker. It's the 5-mana blue initiative creature.
It makes drakes.
it makes drakes every end step. When it's just really good. It's really good in this deck because you are ramping a lot because you're playing a ton of mana dorks. My point spread includes Soul Ring. So you're just like making a bunch of mana. And then this is just often the best creature to tutor for late game. Because you just slam it and start making drakes, and then it's really hard for them to get the initiative back because your birds attack them.
Oh, just make birds?
Well, flying,
anything with wings.
A flying 1/1. I don't care what it is. I think it's actually like a really, really weird creature type. It's like a drake fairy
butterfly. Is it a butterfly? Okay, well he does that. I'm going to talk about the next deck. That next deck obviously is goblins. We've talked about this. It's actually on the most recent episode of Paperlander, which will actually upon.
You don't think it'll be out by this time? Well, I guess probably not.
I am unsure if the most recent Paperlander, when this goes out, is 6 or 7. 6 is out, 7 is in the editing bay. But we have Robert actually...
Yeah, someone's going to play goblins eventually.
Okay, Paperlander 6. I don't know why I said most recent. I can just say Paperlander 6. Robert plays black-red goblins, actually, and I believe someone gets comboed. It's an aggro deck that plays expendable creatures that combo.
Yeah, and
usually the combo involves a goblin recruiter. Almost always, actually, it involves a goblin recruiter.
Pretty much every single time.
Which is great because then they only have to tutor for the goblins player has to tutor for a single goblin,
and then kill them.
Yeah, you kind of get Spellseeker vibes from it.
Yeah,
it's just that it's kind of a 1-card combo if you don't stop them.
Yeah,
they don't have to find anything else.
Similar. Also, yes, Feywild Caretaker makes fairy dragons, blue fairy dragons to be exact.
The best color of mana.
Yes.
Except in creature decks, it's like the 5th best color in creature decks. At me.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's arguments that could be made. But yeah, we're gonna move on to elves.
Elves and Hoof are pretty similar.
Yeah. I think elves actually has infinite combos. Well, at least one. But don't ask me to say what it is because I don't play elves. I think that it's in there.
Does having a lot of elves and tutoring for Shaman of the Pack count?
No. I think I think there's an infinite combo somewhere in elves. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's actually talked about on a Paperlander that either has already come out or will be coming out. Who can say?
Okay. Yeah, Paperlander number 7, which is either coming out soon or is currently out, features a player playing elves with like mono green elves with a combo in it.
Foreshadowing.
So you can see how that works. How you can do how it worked.
Yeah. All right.
Keep talking. It's my turn.
Finish it off with Pattern Rector.
Yeah. Well, we already talked about Hoof earlier, I guess.
Yeah.
Pattern Rector.
Elves and Hoof are the same deck, sort of ish.
Pattern Rector is featured on Paperlander number 4? 5?
I think 4 sounds right. I think
it's
on
4.
One of them.
I am playing it. It is an Abzan creature combo deck. Similar to Abzan Recurring Nightmare, you actually play probably close to 80 of the same cards. Maybe more. And it's more focused on getting a pattern rector, an academy rector in play and getting it to die. And then pattern, if you have a sack outlet, pattern rector gets pattern of rebirth, puts on a bonus creature, sack that creature, go get Protean Hulk, sack Protean Hulk, go get any one of a couple different 6 mana combos of creatures, and then they die.
Yeah. Probably the easiest one is Murderous Redcap plus Vizier of Remedies. But there's also just a bunch of... It's pretty easy to combo when you can tutor your deck for any 6 CMC worth of creatures.
There is definitely one card that made it better. A new card from a recent Commander set is... do not remember what it's called. It's like Animated Sleeper or something. It's 2 and a black, and it comes in as a copy of something that has died this turn. Like a target creature in a graveyard that died this turn. So it can come in as a copy of Protean Hulk. And you can get more stuff. To like get set up, you can like use it to set up your protection and then go get the combo. So like you can get like your Sylvan Safekeeper first, plus that, and then go get other stuff. So it makes the combo a little more versatile. Or I should say a little more resilient, I mean.
There's a lot of lines that deck can take to ensure that you can't mess it up.
Yeah, I would say that one is more on the all-in combo side.
Yes.
Rather than the beatdown side.
Definitely. The deck's also playing, like Ash was talking, like it's playing like Devoted Druid stuff. It's playing, like Murderous Redcap. It's playing Safi. It's just like all kinds of creature combos.
Yeah. We're running low on time, but I just want to quickly... I feel like we've talked a lot about the different types of creature combo decks, and we talked a little bit about why you'd play it, but we haven't really talked about how to play it that much. But really it comes down to know what your combos are, and don't forget to look at the game as you can just attack them.
Yeah, that's like the biggest thing to keep in mind when you're playing creature combo deck. Don't hyper-focus on the combo, hyper-focus on what is actually the best way to end the game. If your best way to end the game, if you have a creature tutor and you have a choice between going in, like you're hellbent, you've got one card, it's a creature tutor, and you're like, okay, I could either go get Kiki Jiki, which is part of my combo, or I could just go get like an initiative card and just start gaining value that way. If you don't have anything else going on, it's probably just better to get the initiative card. So keep in...
Or Questing Beast.
Questing Beast is really good at just killing your opponent.
Questing Beast unironically goes in every single one of these green decks.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe not elves. And also...
Okay, maybe not elves. No, I would play it in Hoof. Dude, you know how often you get to turn 3 Queast?
I would hope really often in a deck that's playing every mana dork ever made. But yeah. Play your creatures and kill them. And get to know your deck really well. This is a deck that really, really rewards you for knowing your list really well. Because, we said, there's so many creature tutors, and there's so many like different weird toolbox creatures that can just kind of get you out of a lot of situations. Like Collector Oof is super good against a lot of decks, and Opposition Agent is really good against a lot of decks. And you're gonna miss a lot of opportunities if you don't remember that those are in your deck. Like if you have an Eldamri's Call in hand and 5 mana, and your opponent like casts a tutor, sometimes like if you don't know your list super well, or you don't remember the Opposition Agent is in there, you might just be like, oh yeah, it resolves. Then on their end step, Eldamri's Call and go get whatever. But if you just like Eldamri's Call for Opposition Agent and cast it, the game's probably over. So just know your list, and keep your mind open for what potential lines you can take to win the game, not just comboing.
So, Nick.
Yeah.
I think, it's only fair we talk about the things that this archetype isn't so great at. So, I mean, we're playing a bunch of creatures. We're obviously super fragile to Wrath of God, right?
Sort of, but not exactly. Creature combo decks are actually shockingly resilient. You have a lot of ways to bring creatures back. You have a lot of like creature tutors. So as long as you're playing smart and not committing everything to the board, it's really easy to just rebuild after a Wrath. So if you're playing against a control deck, you can just like play your creatures, start attacking, and if they Wrath, usually like one well-timed like go tutor for Karmic Guide, reanimate the like Felidar Guardian that they just wrathed away to blink Karmic Guide again to reanimate something else, or like go get Renegade Rallier and like use your Revolt to just like rebuild the board, and then all of a sudden you have a clock again and they're looking at the exact same problem that they were before. As well as your combos usually all take place in the span of one turn, so Wrath of God doesn't do anything when it's your main phase and you just play your combo pieces and kill them.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the biggest effect Wrath of God has is you lose mana.
Yeah, that is one very important thing about Wrath of God, is that if your mana has been coming in the form of mana dorks, which oftentimes you can have
that
those,
and Cradle.
Yeah, but you can have those situations in which you've got like 3 lands on the battlefield, but also like 2 or 3 mana dorks, and then they cast Wrath, and you're like, oh, well, now I only have 3 mana because my mana dorks are gone. That is often the biggest impact that Wraths have, and it can be very good. Yeah, we're not saying Wraths are not good against creature combo. We're just saying that they are not as backbreaking as you might think.
Now, something that is exactly as backbreaking as you think is Nicholas's favorite card from Tempest.
Absolutely
Nick,
not.
what's that?
Humility is the worst Magic card ever printed. That being said, the recent printing of initiative creatures, I think, has made it more reasonable to beat Humility, because if you can get one of those down before they play the Humility, then all of a sudden they kind of have to deal with 2 different things, right? Because now, even though your board state's irrelevant, you still have this like constant value engine that's always going, and it's going to put 2 counters on your creature, which still works through Humility. Now your creature's a 3/3, and then it's going to dome them for 5, and then it's going to start drawing you cards, and then it's going to put a 1/1 with counters on it, and they just have to deal with it. So initiative cards have definitely helped creature combo against Humility, which is really nice, but Humility is still absolutely backbreaking because most of your answers for enchantments are creatures. So now you're down to like Beseju.
And depending on the deck, maybe Assassin's Trophy. That's a stiff maybe.
Yeah, I don't think I would personally include Assassin's Trophy in any one of the decks on this list. But
well, to be fair, Nicholas, between you and I, one of us have lost to Humility a lot more than the other.
Sure. Usually my answers to Humility, like I said, Beseju, you Oko like can fight through it pretty reasonably. 3 mana to Fairy bounces it. A lot of your Planeswalkers can kind of fight through it, like Minsc and Boo is pretty decent. Wait, actually?
Yeah.
It's actually not that decent.
I mean, if they let it resolve and don't remove it immediately, it's not bad.
But your thing,
you get to make a 1/1 every turn. Oh, it's a legendary and it's named Boo.
Yeah, it also doesn't have Trample or Haste anymore, which makes Minsc and Boo much worse. So actually, that's not as.
Wait, does it make the token with Trample Haste, or does it give it Trample and Haste?
Now we're gonna have to figure this out. I think it just has.
I'm on
Trample. Okay, Ash is gonna look this up. But okay, other weaknesses for the deck. Obviously, yeah.
Oh, it's bad.
Humility is kind of like a fringe thing. Only some decks are playing it, and a lot of decks are not on it anymore. It's more prevalent in our meta than I think it is in many other metas, and I may be partially to blame for that, which is slightly unfortunate. But I think the creature combos deck's main weaknesses, or like their top weakness, is well-timed spot removal. Essentially, now obviously there are ways of protecting your combo, but largely if you just kind of hold back a Swords to Plowshares, you're not in any real danger of them killing you with the combo line. Now that being said, they're still just playing good creatures and attacking you, and you still have to deal with that. But if you can afford to just hold back a removal spell, all of a sudden when they try to go through their pod chain, you just interrupt it. Or when they try to like tutor for the other half of the combo, and then you just kill the first half, and you kind of remove the chance of them comboing you out of nowhere if you just hold up like a Swords to Plowshares all game. Now they're playing like Mother of Runes and Giver of Runes, so it is possible for them to find a way to protect it, but good well-timed spot removal can be very good.
Yeah. That's the number one thing that most decks are going to be able to do against it. Is like be very discerning with your removal. Okay. So we mentioned last episode that we were going to have a big exciting competitive tournament. That has happened. It is over. We had a really good turnout.
Yeah.
It went pretty well. So let's me and Nick will briefly go through our experiences at said tournament. So my round one, I was playing Esper Vault. So it was Esper Time Vault, control deck with a Time Vault combo finish. I lost my first round against Red White Prison in Taxes, I guess is the best way to put it. And my opponent did get a game loss because of a decklist error, and then they just had the exact right thing exactly at the right time, and it was pretty frustrating actually for the next two games. But I lost round one. Nick, what'd you do round one?
I also lost round one. Bad start for the 10 points crew for this tournament. I was against...
Robert won round one.
That's true. Robert did win round one. I was playing 5-color Underworld Breach Storm. I was playing the Lotusless version that just goes more all in on having tutors. Round one, I was against Chad on Red Green Bond, which is a matchup I thought I would like. And then he just drew every single hate piece that he possibly could. I don't want to say that he kind of was a luck sack, but he was a luck sack. He like collector oofed both games. I think he Cinder Vines. He had like endurance and scavenging. He just like had everything. It was brutal.
Fair enough. Round two, I actually don't remember who I played against round two. It might have... Who was it? I don't know who it was. I know I won round two, and then round three was against Chad, and I won. So I won rounds 2 and 3, I think. I think that was who I played round 3.
I also won rounds 2 and 3. And I know I played against Jund Midrange in one of those.
I played against Devin round 2.
Oh, nice. I
played against my brother-in-law, and he was playing Esper Oracle. We were playing very similar decks. But I think mine just being able to like hold up more mana and just do part of the combo at once was better. I think that's what one of the games came down to.
Yeah. I played against Jund Midrange. And I think I also played against Lands. I think Lands is a really good matchup for me because I don't really care that much about what they're doing. Jund Midrange is often less of a great matchup for me because they have hand attack and interaction. But I just managed to go fast enough to win that match.
All right, so my last round...
I think you still have
Sorry, not my 4. Last round. My round 4 I played against Grant. He was on Mardu Theseus. Mardu aggro with the human sub-theme. It was a really close match. I ended up getting there with like a really well thought out, like perfectly analyzed line of if I do this, this, and this, and do this here to get this, we can do that. And then I did. It was in turns, or like close to turn time anyways. Like there was like a small crowd and I kind of felt like a legend.
Yeah, my round 4, I was against Matt on Naya, and we were 1-1, and we went into game 3. And I had, through the first like 2 or 3 turns, I had tutored all of my combo pieces, so he knew that I had the combo. And on his turn, he's like, he had a Ragavan that he'd been attacking with, so he had treasure tokens. And he goes, all right, I'm going to Summoner's Pact, and I'm going to go get this Collector Roof and play it. And I looked down at his board of 3 lands and some treasure tokens. And in my head, I'm just thinking, I really hope he doesn't think that he's going to crack those treasure tokens to pay for this pact on his upkeep. So I go to my turn, I cast a cantrip, I pass it back to him. He's like, all right, upkeep. I will sack these treasures. And I was like, I am really sorry, friend, but no, you're not. And he just looked down, looked defeated, and I just felt so bad. I was like, oh my goodness, I felt terrible.
I mean, but it is better for that to happen at a high table at round 5 than
round 4.
That was round 4. Okay.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. That being said, he didn't really have any good options because, like I said, I was gonna combo next turn, so he had to find a way to interrupt that, and there weren't that many great ways, but it was still very unfortunate.
Yeah. My round 5, actually, I went up against Nicholas.
Yep.
Now Nicholas and I were playing round 5. This was the winning in. We could not draw in. And to make it even more tense, we were at table 5, which is just one table off of where the top 8 is going to play. So, like, it was like we were psychologically prepped to fight to the death on this one.
I think we were actually at table 4. We were the 7th and 8th seed. And the only reason that we couldn't draw in is because something that very rarely happens. There were 2 players that were 2-0-2, which means that if we drew and one of them won their match, then they would have a better record than us. So we were 7th and 8th seed, which means that which I don't actually know, Ash, if I've told you this, but we did later discover that both of those players lost, so we could have drawn in, but we didn't have any way to know this.
Yeah, there was no way to know.
So we had to duel it out in a tragic elimination round.
Reminder to all of our lovely, lovely tournament players out there, if you are consistently getting multiple draws, you should probably play faster.
Yes.
Now, of course, obviously, sometimes it's not because you're playing so that you get draws, but
sometimes you're being a degenerate and playing blue-white control.
I've never, ever drawn a tournament match with blue-white, I don't think. I think I die too fast because I'm scared of drawing. I don't
believe that is true. But regardless, me and Ash played, and I managed to get there. I think I managed to get there by, like, Ash had enough interaction to keep me off of, like, my infinite combo. And then I managed to, I had a Tendrils of Agony in hand, and we just kind of went, like, draw, go, draw, go, draw, go for a little bit. And I eventually got to the point that I was able to just ritual cantrip into Tendrils for lethal. Which
I remember getting tilted a little bit tilted after game 1 because I had to mulligan so aggressively game 1. And then game 2, I kept a mediocre hand because I got so tilted at how far I had to mulligan the previous game. And then the mediocre hand was not good enough. And then I misplayed. And Nicholas played very, very well.
Yeah, I think...
And then I died.
I almost consider not bringing Storm because Storm can be very taxing on the mind when you're playing a lot of Magic, but me and Ash had literally jammed like for several hours the night before, just like jamming games with our decks, and I
estimate like 40 to 50 to 60 games.
Yeah, like it was.
Like we played so
much Magic, and I felt really comfortable. So I literally had the deck built, but I had not decided what I was going to play until the morning of, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna play this. And so yeah, unfortunately that left Ash being like the ninth player in.
I think I actually ended up like 12th.
Oh, that is unfortunate. But either way, I ended up being. I went from being the 8th seed to being like I think I was either first or second. I think I was actually the first seed. Because everyone else drew into top 8 and I had to play, which means I was 4-1 where everyone else was like 3-1-1.
Yeah, because you played against 8th seed.
Yeah, so my first match I was against another person on Breach Storm, but this was on the Lotus Breach Storm. So we were basically duking it out to see what is superior, Lotus or Lotusless. And I am happy to say I came out on top. It was a blisteringly fast match. I think game 1 I comboed on like turn 3, game 2 he comboed on turn 3, and then game 3 I comboed on turn 3. Like, it was just staggeringly fast how quick Storm decks can be when, I mean, it is interesting. Storm decks have the interaction of being able to hold up a silence and cast it on their opponent's turn when they're trying to go off at the right time. But neither one of us did that. We just both just went fast and tried to combo. So from there, I went to the semifinals. Or no, I went to the quarterfinals. What was I against?
No, you were in the quarterfinals. You went to the semifinals.
Right. Yes. I played against Blue-White Control.
Against Grixis. Oh, was that? I knew that was.
Yeah, I played against Blue-White Control. This Blue-White Control was playing the Rest in Peace Helm of Obedience combo, and he managed to get Rest in Peace both games, and I managed to win through it.
You 2-0'd through Rest in Pieces?
Yeah. It actually might have been... I know that he got it every single game, so it might have been 2-1, but if it was, he got Rest in Peace that game as well. But I had the first game that he did it, I had Limdal's Vault, and I just, on his instep, I cast Limdal's Vault, and I think I ended up taking like 15 damage trying to find my Abrupt Decay, which is very good at dealing with Rest in Peace, because it can't be countered. And then the next game that I won, I just Demonic Tutored for Abrupt Decay. And while Rest in Peace is really good against me, when you're not presenting a clock, I just don't care, because I can just find a way to deal with it and then win. And then...
Pretty much.
Yeah, and then that brings us to the final match, where it is top 2, and ironically... I was against a creature combo deck. This is not one that we actually talked about, but I don't really know what I would call it. It's
he called it 5-color ephemerate in the older versions of it.
Yeah,
I believe that on his deck list he named it 5-color pod.
Yeah, I think that is what he called it, 5-color pod.
I can figure out.
Which was a matchup I was hoping to dodge all night, because as we talked about, Creature Combo has so many Silver Bullet cards and so many ways to tutor them. It's really hard for me to beat Creature Combo. So
yeah, he called it 5-color pod.
Yeah, and basically the deck was playing just a bunch, like all of the different creature combos. It was playing Kiki Jiki, it was playing like Devoted Druid stuff, as well as just like a bunch of value creatures, kind of what we've been talking about, but kind of mixing some of the archetypes. And yeah, game 1, he played a turn 2 Survival of the Fittest. He gets to the point where he's tapped out except for 1 land, and I didn't know his exact list, and I just looked at my hand and I was like, I have the ability to combo, but I know that there's probably an endurance in his deck, so my only way to win here is if he has either only 1 creature in hand to discard to survival, only 1 creature and no other green card, or he just doesn't see the line or doesn't have an endurance in his deck. But I tried to go for it. I cast my first Brain Freeze with Storm of like 8 or something. And then he ended up survivaling 4 endurance, shuffled away my graveyard. I milled a bunch of cards. I milled a Savine's Reclamation, but it just wasn't enough because he got to untap with a Survival of the Fittest and a bunch of mana. And then from there, he just tutored up Silver Bullet cards until I lost. And then game 2, I think he cast a Teferi Time Raveler. And
seems good.
He cast a Bring to Light for 5 to get Kiki Jiki, and then just played the other half of the combo and killed me. I think he went turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 Teferi, turn 3 something, turn 4 Bring to Light. Turn 3 was some sort of interaction to keep me off of comboing, and then turn 4 Bring to Light for Kiki Jiki, followed by something on his turn to kill me. So I ended up getting second place, which I am very happy with. But I was very close to the throne and was vanquished by my own love creature combo.
I mean, that's a testament to the power of playing creature combo.
Yeah.
And knowing your list really well.
Creature combo.
Now,
is super good.
I do want to share a little bit of information with the fans, the listeners, whatever we need to call you all. This tournament had a turnout of 30 players, and only 20% of those players were playing power in their decks. And 2 out of the top 8 deck lists were playing power, so that's pretty good. Now that I say it like that, I guess it means that in a higher percentage of top 8 than of the tournament at large was playing power. But I would like to remind you, one of those pieces of power got knocked out in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and top 2, neither one of us had power in our decks.
I believe the other person playing power was your blue-eyed opponent.
Probably, yes. I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure they were on. I think they were on power.
This is all a rant, or not really a rant. This is all just to say we were recently kind of discussing one of the things turning people away from the format is that they see, oh, people are playing Black Lotus and I can't afford a Black Lotus, therefore I'm not going to be able to competitively play this format. But the points list does a really good job of balancing it out. So if you can't afford a Black Lotus, your Underworld Breachstorm can still be really, really good, and potentially even better.
Also, I guess technically the amount of top 8 people playing power versus the entire pool of players playing power was as close to proportional as it could be. So really, if you think about it, it's basically no different whether you do or don't play power. They're the exact same.
Yeah. So why play power? Except if you want to build half of these creature combo decks we talked about, you might want to buy a Time Walk.
I mean, or just play the one that's not blue.
I said half. I didn't say any of them.
All right. Well, we've gone a bit long here. Do you have anything else to share?
Overtime. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you around.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the 10 Points Podcast. And don't forget to count your points.